Okay, Slacker by Gordon Corman, Chapter 31, told by Cameron Boxer. Oh man, I moaned. We were so worried about saving the beaver that we forgot about saving the ramp. The freeway is just on the other side of the woods, Tony exclaimed excitedly. Run! I'd seen some pretty insane things in video games. Battle scenes with bullets chirping past my ears, car races so realistic you could almost feel the hot blast of exploding fuel tanks, full-on attacks by cannibals, zombies, aliens, and werewolves, the sickening crunch of an entire planet sucked down a black hole. It was nothing compared to the sight of hundreds of kids pounding through the woods in a desperate sprint to make it to the freeway before the bulldozers. We ran flat out, underbrush grabbing our ankles and branches scratching painfully at our faces. We left behind our bikes and skateboards and scooters. The high schoolers abandoned their cars. Nobody thought twice about it. The only thing that mattered was making it to our ramp in time to stop the demolition. Part of me was thinking, this isn't you. You belong on a couch in front of a screen. You shouldn't be blundering through woods, dodging trees and hurdling bushes. Your only physical strain should be your fingers on a controller. This is crazy. And it was crazy. I had no breath. My eyes stung from dripping sweat. My lungs burned with every stride, and I was sure my heart rate had climbed higher than my usual maximum of 60. But I was running faster than anybody, except maybe String, who was out in front of the pack bellowing, "Hang in there, the string is coming!" I passed Jennifer, who was stumbling along carrying Elvis, and Daphne, who was keeping pace, shouting, "Don't drop him!" I passed Jordan, Kelly, and Felicia, and a little farther ahead, Melody and Katrina. I even passed Xavier, who was galloping full tilt, his huge body bent forward into the wind, his face glistening with perspiration. Not far behind the leaders, I pulled even with Pavel and Chuck. Running at top speed over rough ground wasn't exactly the place for a conversation, but they both nodded in my direction when they saw me. "Gotta get there," I gasped. "Gotta do it," Chuck managed, panting. "Gotta," Pavel agreed. It was all the breath any of us could spare. And then amazingly, we began to gain on the leaders. String and some of the high school track stars. Unbelievable. We weren't athletes. We were gamers, couch potatoes. Yet today, we were the awesome threesome in a totally new way. The fastest kids in Sycamore. When we broke out of the trees, it was sudden and unexpected, almost like a giant curtain had been swept aside to let us through. The sight that met our eyes stopped us dead in our tracks, and we were almost trampled by the herd thundering up behind us. There was the demolition crew from the Division of Highways. Hard hats, jackhammers, bulldozers, front loaders, and dump trucks to haul away the rubble of what used to be the gateway to our town. There was the ramp, waiting to be demolished. But they couldn't get to it. Blocking their way were our parents, our teachers, storekeepers, doctors, lawyers, business people, mail carriers, waitresses, and short order cooks. They were packed onto the ramp, and in front of it, on the service road. Mayor Delinka was there, the town council, Audra Klinkner, Mrs. Backward, the head librarian, Dr. LaPierre, Mr. Fan Club, even Mom and Dad? Melody blurted, pulling up beside me. "Did you tell them about this?" I shook my head in wonder. Not me. Pavel had a theory. Few kids must have blabbed. Or they got caught sneaking out and spilled the beans, and the word just spread. Amazing. Every kid in Sycamore went off chasing after Elvis and forgot to save our exit. But it was okay because every adult in Sycamore showed up to save the exit for us. We all squeezed onto the ramp, and believe me, it was a miracle we didn't demolish it ourselves. That's how many of us were jammed on there. Melody and I pushed over to stand with Mom and Dad. "I can't believe you guys are here," Melody told them over the noise of the crowd and the heavy machinery. "Our exit would have been toast without you," I added. "Thanks." "We're the ones who should be thanking you," my dad said emotionally. "We were so wound up in what was happening to our business that it never even occurred to us to try to do something about it. It took you kids to show us that. No, it took your positive action group, Mom added to me. I don't really deserve all the credit for what the PAG does, I admitted. Today is something Melody and I kind of came up with together. It was almost like we were holding the 4th of July on a little strip of pavement. Kids were hanging out with their families. Neighbors were meeting and greeting. Everything was there except the hot dogs. But it was really tense too, because the whole party was happening in front of enough heavy machinery to plow us under in about 15 seconds. The foreman of the demolition crew was shouting into his cell phone, asking for instructions, while the workers leaned on shovels and jackhammers glaring at us. Time ticked by, and before we knew it, it wasn't morning anymore. The workers turned off the trucks and bulldozers. We smelled victory and got really excited, but they were only taking a break for lunch. A few of the restaurant employees got food for us too, and both sides dug in to wait out the afternoon. It was actually pretty dull, and I'm sure all the other kids thought so too, and probably a lot of the adults. Still, for some reason, it never occurred to me to take out my phone and check on my clan. It wasn't fun, but it felt big, and the fact that the whole town was doing it together made it even bigger. It happened just before 2:30. I was half asleep from boredom and exhaustion, so when the crew started up the machinery again, I nearly jumped out of my skin. It was a scary moment. What if they started driving at us? Super slow, inch by inch. Would we have to choose between backing away and getting run over? Worried glances passed around the crowd. Would the workers actually do that? Surely they didn't want to hurt anybody. Dad shoved Melanie and me behind him, although how he thought he could stop a bulldozer was beyond me. All around us, parents did the same thing with their own kids. And then one by one, the trucks, earth movers, and loaders turned around and drove off down the freeway. We watched the line of road-busting equipment head out of sight. And when the last pickup disappeared from view, the celebration broke out. It was pretty ill. Everybody screaming and high-fiving and throwing their hats in the air. Kids who refused to be seen in public with their parents didn't mind being hugged and kissed in front of the whole town. We'd been victims for so long, watching the new mall suck the life out of Sycamore. And now we were back in charge of our own lives. Pavel, Chuck, and I pulled gummy worms out of our pocket and toasted the great moment. I turned to Pavel, shamefaced. I never should have accused you of messing with the webpage. Technically, understandable, Pavel mumbled, his mouth full of candy. Technically, maybe, I conceded, but that's not awesome threesome style. The only person not jumping for joy was Jennifer. She couldn't. She still had the injured Elvis wrapped in Daphne's jacket, clutched in her arms. She was so determined to get credit for saving the beaver that she had not let go of him through all those hours. Now she was walking purposefully toward Audra Klinkner, the reporter who would tell the world about the Friends of Fuzzy and their epic rescue. But then something must have changed the head cheerleader's mind. In the middle of all the chaos, she walked right past the reporter and gave the injured animal to Dr. Casper, our town vet. That might have been the most amazing thing to come from a pretty amazing day, finding out that Jennifer Del Rio had a heart.